I absolutely love cutting out the frames. It feels like you're really getting your teeth into the structure of the boat. You spent the time lofting them out on the floor, and then it's translating that into the real world. Those curved oak timbers have been selected and seasoning for a long time already, sort of winking at me whenever I walk past them, saying, make me into a boat. So the chance to actually get stuck in with a chainsaw and cut the shapes out is like, this is the beginning of it all. This is where it all starts to come together. This oak has come from a couple of different sources. Some of it from Tregothnan estate, which is on the other side of the River Fal. Oak's been coming from there for hundreds of years for boat building in Cornwall. They grow some pretty gnarly windswept Atlantic oaks there. This timber's been seasoning in my secret stash in the woods for about 10 years now. Finally come to what it was destined for, which is a fantastic schooner, and it's perfect. The curves that I've lofted out on the loft floor are fitting really nicely on the wood. There's a nice selection of curves, some tight for the frames back aft, and some straighter, like less sharp curves for the frames up forward. It's really important to lay all your timber out and have all your patterns handy so that you can swap between. You can put your patterns on all the different pieces of wood to match them up perfectly to suit the right grain and to make sure you're making most efficient use of the wood. This is a pattern for frame number 12, which is a little bit aft of midships, and you can see the lovely shape there. It's possible I could make this out of one piece, but I think more likely it'll be two. There'll be a curve here and another curve here, and then the doubler will go joining where they join on the butt. There's a roughed out frame number 6. Just forward and midships in the boat. That'll be going through the planer next, and then we'll put her in the bandsaw to cut the bevels on it.
So I found Ben on his website, and I thought I'd head over, so I came here and I got speaking to Ben, and he offered me some work experience. So I came here and I did a week helping out. We did Pet, which is the large fishing boat. Yeah, I was helping out on that, and then after the week Ben offered me some work, so I came every Thursday, which is the day that I'm not in uni. And yeah, I work here every Thursday, sort of doing bits and bobs. When he has a lot of aspects to his personality and his business that are just inspirational. One of the main things that I've learned is the processing of the wood. So it's like from the slices to the beams that make the boat. Yeah, yeah, it's just really interesting, and I never actually knew it before. And it's nice to see the difference and the change of the wood.
Because a lot of the frames in the boat have a strong S curve. The Malabar schooner has a lovely wine glass shape, and these kind of curves are very difficult to get out of oak in one piece. So the straighter frames I can get out in one piece, but where they go into an S-bend, I need to make it out of 2 futtocks that will be joined together with a doubler that will then give them the strength to join them to make into the S shape. So here on this timber, I'm finding the upper futtock of the frame, and then I'll look for the lower futtock on another piece of timber, and then I'll match them together. We'll have to draw them out accurately, draw where they join, make a doubler piece to go on top, and then when we've found all the timber for each frame, we can then plane them and then put them through the bandsaw to get the rolling bevel, because the angle of the frame changes according to where it is in the boat. Not at all. I'm absolutely loving it. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and finally, every time I walk past the timber in the woods, I go, one day you're going to be a boat, one day you're going to be a schooner, and now the wood's finally come out, it's got an airing, and it's being used what it was destined for. And I think it's actually a very satisfying process, laying the patterns on, cutting the wood out, roughing it out with a chainsaw. This is the big, heavy work in boat building at the beginning of the job. It's almost the bit I love the most. It starts to get finer as you get into the build. When you start having to shape the planks, there's a lot more accuracy involved. And when we start joining these pieces of wood together and cutting the bevels, there's a finesse there too. But right now, it's big timber, chainsaws, lugging stuff through the planer, and yeah, can't beat it. So after roughing out the frames with the chainsaw, we now lay the frame patterns back on those roughed out timbers and mark accurately the external and internal curves of each frame, marking also the water lines and the buttock lines so that the frames can be accurately positioned within the boat. And also marking on the angle of the bevel of the outside of the frames, so that when we come to cutting them out on the bandsaw, there's a reference for the person who's operating the tilting bed of the saw to cut that rolling bevel as it changes around the frame. The bevel changes as you cut around the curve of the frame, because in every single part of the boat, planking is sitting on it at a different angle. So it may be that on one set of frames, at the top of the hull, the planking is running quite parallel to the center line, whereas at the bottom it may be pointing more at more of an angle to the center line. And then back up again. Okay, fire up. Real 3.5 there, yeah. The frames are quite long, so you need 2 people to feed the frames through the saw, and you need a third person to tilt the table to the correct angle for the So both Jordan and Jacob have been helping me with with cutting out the frames, different days. Both been helping to tilt the table as I put the frames through the saw in order to get the correct angle of bevel.
I was changing the angle of the cut, so by lifting up the base, it would change the angle of the blade. So as you push the wood through, the angle of the cut would change. Because as the boat sort of moves, like if you're from the middle and it sort of like curves up towards the end, the angles of the wood will change. So that was that part.
It's a bit jerry-rigged. I mean, it seems to work really well though. I mean, it's just got the angles that relate to the tilt of the bed marked on it, and there's a bucket full of lead with a rope that goes round to kind of act as a counterbalance, which makes it quite smooth. I just had some stuff knocking around and made it out of what I had.
So sometimes I work on the schooner build, which is the new build that we're doing. And then I also work now and then on the boats that we have in the yard. At the moment we have Patience in, so we're sort of stripping her back, sanding her down, ready for the work that we have to do. It's my first time ever being in this kind of environment in the boat yard. Yeah, I mean, when I came to Falmouth, I kind of knew I wanted to sort of do some sort of boat building. I met Ben, obviously, and he used to be a fine artist, and he painted and drew. So yeah, when I came here, obviously I saw all the boats and I wanted to draw them and paint them. Yeah, and after my work experience, I came in and I drew some of the boats. Yeah, it's a really nice thing to draw. I think the most inspirational thing is to take a tree, like a piece of wood, and turn it into something that you can travel the world with. I think that's the best thing.